it's a perfect image of joy because joy can exist even in darkness. It's not something like happiness, which is deleted by sadness or suffering or sorrow or pain or ache or whatever. It is something that Jesus can give us regardless.
Welcome back to the Proximity Podcast. I'm Abby Thomas, and today I am joined by the wonderful Kate Hollamby.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's been a really fun proximity, so I'm happy.
So we're at the conference.
We are.
We should state that. We're at the conference, yeah. And you have a stall with you.
I do.
Which we're going to talk about what you're selling in a minute. It's very exciting. But tell me first of all, Katie, where you live and what you love about it.
I live in Hattersley, which is East Manchester, on an estate that looks like somebody took an inner city estate, sucked it up, and then dropped it in the middle of the countryside. So it's surrounded by hills, and you walk about 3 minutes so you can be in the woods. And I love it for that. And I love it because it's full of brilliant, very genuine, authentic, and lovely people.
And what does your church look like? How do you do church?
Our church is very authentic, I would say, and real. We try and be as creative as we can because it's fun. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later. And it is not what we expected. We have lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds, which we weren't expecting, based on the people that were in our estate when we moved on. And there's a lot of children, free-range children. And my favourite part of any service is the testimonies everybody shares. Lots of beautiful, real things.
Stories about what God's doing.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So you're also an author and illustrator.
Yes.
So tell me a bit about that, how that meshes with your faith.
So I started painting and writing really about 8 years ago when I got diagnosed. Well, when I fell ill with chronic fatigue. And suddenly all of my normal ways of connecting with Jesus and with people stopped working. And I had to develop a whole new way of connecting with God and a whole new way of doing life because I was in bed for a year and a half. And I discovered that there was this whole beautiful way of connecting with Jesus primarily in my imagination. And then after spending a lot of time in that imaginative prayer space with Jesus, things started to get created, as things do, out of play spaces. And so I started painting to try and remember some of the things that Jesus had said and try and sit in them and hold them. And I started writing because I wanted to share some of the treasure I was finding with other people.
So you hadn't painted much before that?
No, I painted when I was little. But no, about 8 years ago, started painting flowers. When I was really poorly, I would paint one flower. That would be like my energy for the day. And it would be great because something beautiful existed. And that was really a beautiful thing to be able to do when I could do very little.
So you've gone from that to writing an amazing children's story. And as my children say, I'm now going to glaze you a little bit because
Great.
I have read this book with my 11-year-old and we wept, we laughed, we couldn't wait. You know, it's one of the, we like to read together and I like to read together before bed. And as we finish a chapter, you know, she would say, Mum, no, we have to keep going. So it is a really, really good book. Can you tell us about it? How do you describe it to people?
Yeah, so it's an adventure story. I wrote it to deal with two things. I thought, wouldn't it be great if a book existed that could help children and adults deal with darkness in their lives? Because the reality is, just because you know Jesus doesn't mean all darkness is dealt with. And wouldn't it be great if I and the people who read it could experience some stories that they could hold on to when they're dealing with fear. So a lot of it is about two children who are being pursued by some creatures who shout lies at them And initially their reaction to that is to run. And that was my story, that when I was faced with a negative feeling or an anxious feeling, I would run and try and get out of that feeling as quickly as possible. But that was not what Jesus was teaching me at the time. When I was ill with chronic fatigue, there was a lot of fear and a lot of negative emotion because you're too tired to bounce back like you normally would. So I was really learning to take every thought captive. What does it mean for Jesus to show up in the darkness, because he wasn't taking me out of it? And those are the two key things that I wanted to write into a story.
So we don't want to give the game away too much.
No.
But it is, I guess there's sort of magical mystery side to it.
Yes.
Tell me about the sort of power of story for children and adults, because I was as caught up in it. To help people to see sort of deeper truths.
Yeah. I think we all know, don't we, from an early age, how important story is. There's something about when you're reading a story and you're putting yourself into that space. So it's drawing on your empathy. But you're not actually having to experience the real danger of the book. So you can go into darker places than you have had to in your real life and things like that. I think that's so powerful for children. Although the reality is for lots of children, they are experiencing darkness. And a book creates a space where you can tell them a really good ending. You can tell them there's hope in the midst of it. My daughter struggled with anxiety, and I found that the only time we would talk about anxiety or Jesus would be in a crisis. So, when she was panicking already, and then to suddenly say, well, there's this lovely scripture about not being scared, she couldn't feel it. It couldn't kind of pierce her heart or make her feel the safety of Jesus. So I might know that you're safe, Jesus loves you, he's with you, but she couldn't connect with that. So I wanted to create an emotional experience. So you're actually inside the story with Arya and Danny, who are the main characters, and you're experiencing the safety they experience. So I think story connects us emotionally with things. It also gives us meaning, doesn't it? So when we're in a dark situation, we remember that story because it connected in with our hearts, and then it can give us a sense of meaning and a sense of hope, when we're facing real challenge or darkness or danger.
So at the risk of sounding so cheesy, what is God's big story in your life?
Well, I think we've probably touched on it a bit. I really think that, I've always loved writing and creating books, but I never felt like I had a story until I got sick. And then I felt like there was a story I wanted to tell, which was that there is no darkness too dark for Jesus to fill with lights. And the other one that's ongoing is about fear, and how do we face our fears with Jesus? How do we find freedom? I think a lot of us find that the battle in this, in the Western world is about fear and the mental battle. And seeing Jesus come through for us in our thinking and in our hearts, rather than kind of out, it's not outside us physically sometimes. And so the next book that I'm writing,
yes, exciting news,
is the same theme of how do we deal with fear, although this is about internal fear and how do you deal with yourself and your fears about yourself. And the next one will be about how do we deal with fear when we're in the world and connecting with other people, because that's another massive area of fear, is an anxiety with others.
Will it be called The Place of Endless Lights 2?
No, I couldn't possibly tell you what it was.
Is that because you don't know?
No, I do. But, there'll be a whole thing.
Okay.
But it will still have some of the same characters. Okay. And the Trailmaker will be back.
So at the conference, you've been doing some workshops
to
help people paint light.
Yes.
That's the theme. So tell me a little bit about that and why what's the purpose of that?
Yeah. So interestingly, I'd been asked to do a workshop again, and I thought, it'd be really fun to do light painting. I've done it with children. And then they said, the theme of the conference is joy. And I thought, I don't know if that really connects, but that's okay. We'll do light in the darkness anyway. And then I've had this lovely conversation with Jesus for the last month or so about how that's exactly what this metaphor is about, as well as other things about light and dark. Is that joy. It's a perfect image of joy, because joy can exist even in darkness. It's not something like happiness, which is deleted by sadness or suffering or sorrow or pain or ache or whatever. It is something that Jesus can give us regardless. So we've been painting that. And I think, going back to that big story question, what illness does for you is it teaches you that you have to have your joy in who Jesus is, rather than in circumstances. So we were talking a bit about that, about a lot of people wrote "You are my joy" on their paintings today, because that's the source of our joy and our light.
So for someone who perhaps, like you, has not picked up anything creative for a long time,
yes.
What could you give people a bit of an idea of where to start? What do they need to buy? What do they need to do?
So I think creativity can be very connected in our heads with art. And then that can very quickly lead us on to thinking about our school experience of art. And it kind of draws all these lines and boxes around things, like I can't draw would be a classic. And so I actually think the easiest way to get into creativity is to think about play, which normally takes us back to an earlier place in our memories, or somewhere positive in our current memories, like holidays. Because I think if we give ourselves space to play, creative things naturally come out of that. So I would say, before I'm a painter or a writer, I'm a collector. That's my kind of play style. So if you take me to a beach, I will find sea glass and I will collect it all up. So painting partly is about me collecting up things Jesus is saying to me and trying to catch them and have them with me. And it, or exploring as well. So I couldn't move a lot when I was first poorly, and so it was about me exploring different places and creating spaces in my mind that I couldn't do physically. So I think, some people, it's sensory, isn't it? Their play style. They want to touch things and feel grounded. So then, it might be that they could find a way of doing that artistically, or, growing a garden would be super physical. My daughter, when she's at rest and curious and playing, will always try and make people laugh. And so allowing her space to find ways of being creative with that, coming up with hilarious drama sketches or, making funny videos is something she does a lot. That's how her creativity comes, but it's actually play. And I think that's really important, because otherwise creativity can become about the outcome, which I'm very prone to thinking about a good outcome. But actually the best art comes out of, a beautiful play space where you're just enjoying it. It's just about either resting or about praying or being with Jesus in a creative, playful way, and being together.
So the book is a chapter book. I should just be clear about that. It is. But it does have lovely illustrations.
It does, lots.
Throughout it. Yeah. And it's a book for children and adults,
yes,
as we've already said. And you're working on book 2. So just to draw to a close then, Katie, my final question is, what is bringing you joy?
At the moment.
Oh,
well, I think what's been literally the last 2 days has been, if you're an artist or illustrator or writer, you spend a lot of time wandering about in woods or sitting behind a computer or piece of paper. And it is so nice to see the people that are reading your work or looking at your work or have it on the wall or something. I have met somebody yesterday whose children have read the book, and it was really special to them. So they made a video for me to see.
Oh my goodness.
Saying about all the things they loved. Children don't leave reviews. Generally speaking, they say things like, I really liked it, it was really nice. But if it's worked and it's connected with them, they will creatively respond. And I think for me, seeing children's creative responses, like if they've got a cuddly toy and they've named it after one of the characters, or there's an adventure hat, I know so many children who've now got adventure hats that they wear because of the book, World Book Day, dressing up kind of thing. Or there's a child who has made some inventions because there's some wacky inventions in there. So all of that, seeing Jesus wake up imaginations, just like he woke up mine, is a really beautiful and joyful thing.
Katie, thank you so much for speaking to me.
Thanks for having me.